Okay, the last video, we designed the stormwater ponds. Okay, so that's what our ponds will look like. So now we need to grade those in, get those ready for our surface so we can finish this design up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on these properties and I'm going to give it an elevation. The bottom of that pond is 100. That's 101, 102, and 103. I wish I could just label those. I've yet to find where there's something where I can just grab the elevation and just change them. There used to be a command that we could do that, like Eagle Point or something, but we're not an Eagle Point. So that's 100, that's 101. Okay. All right, so now we set the elevations there. So what we need to do is we need to modify our grading right through here a little bit. Okay. What we know is that 101 point is going to be on the low sides of all of these. Okay. I'm not going to worry about the high side because we're not going to change those, but I do want the 101 contour to show right. So what will happen is it'll trim out on the low sides right here. Okay. And then I need to insert a PI right. Let's turn my snap back on. Right there at 101. And 101 this side at 101. And on this side 101. And on this side at 101. Something I will tell you is, and that slope is 33%, so that works okay. That's the greatest you can have, 3-to-1 slope. I inserted a PI here. If you go to insert another PI in that curve, it'll go to a lot of times it'll go to a straight line. So be careful inserting PIs on a curve. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this polyline right here. Okay, and I'm just going to pop that right there, and I'm going to trim that corner right there, or I'm going to break that off right there. Actually, I'm going to do it from right here. So what I'm going to do is I just want to make this across here so that the feature line does right at 100 to 100. Whoops. It needs to hit each one of these lines. If I don't hit each one of these lines, it says grade is 0, so they keep us at 100, 0, 0. Reason I'm doing that is so that the contour line will look right. Okay. Now, in this area, I need to take this whole contour right here, or this back of curve here, all the way around. I'm going to need to start getting back to grade, but I'm going to have to go all the way around here, so we're going to do this whole thing. So we did assign these elevations, right? We did. Okay, so I'm going to match the color. And this is what I do. Two colors. I have layer 0, and I have this break line layer. If it's white, it means I haven't done anything with it. Once I turn it to that magenta, to that layer, then that's part of my surface. So we're ready to go. All right, so I got to think about, I'm going to tie to existing grade. So how am I going to do that? Well, they're going to grade in here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm either going to go from this point to that point. That's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to go right here at this point. We'll break this contour right here, this feature line. And I'm going to break this at that point, and I'm going to feature line. I'm going to create a feature line from right there at 102 to right there at that elevation, which is 103. Okay, so all right, so what that just told me is I don't want 103 as my top contour. Okay, I have to be at 100 on the bottom. Okay, I have to be at 100 on the bottom. But if this is 102 right there, whoops, annotate, add, labels, line, bam. If that's 102 on that side, it's 103 over there. I don't want that I don't want that to be 103 because I don't want it going back in that direction. Okay. So 102,973. Okay, just make sure why it's there. It's 6 inches below that corner, which that's backwards. And this is wrong. 103,446. Okay, I didn't go 6 inches lower. What I did is I made that even with that. So let's raise this up right here to 103.443, and all right. All right, as you escape out of that, I do want this to grade down a little bit from here to here at -1%. Okay, and I'll grade that across straight. Grade 0. So that does slope down. Okay. And so now I'm at 103. So I think based off of my detention pond, and I'm going to go back, and you're going to get a little detention stuff in here because I'm fixing to go back and I'm going to go back and change this pond. I don't like this pond being this deep anyway. So I'm going to go back and kill it 1 foot lower. And so I'm going to make this 100, 101. No, I got to have that depth. Never mind. Never mind. Thinking as I'm going, I got to be at almost 103. So I have cover for my pipe. So I have to be at that. Okay. All right. So I'm good. Now then, this ought to look better though. It ought to be 103 too. Okay, so it slopes here. I was backing water that way. I didn't want to do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this poly line from right here. I'm going to join this right there, and I'm going to join that. So I'm going to make that an outside line so I can grade to existence. So basically, what I'm going to say is I'm going to create a box around my surface so that I can tie down to the existing, because this is going to be higher or lower than existing grade. Okay, and so I'm just going to pick a point here on this side. I'm going to go from this corner to right there. I'm going to break that right there so I can join those, and I'm going to break this right here. Okay, I'll do that with a feature line break. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I can take this and I can join this, to that one, to that one, to that one, to this one, to that one. Okay. So what I've done is I've created a continuous line around here, outlining my proposed surface so I can tie back to existing grade. Okay. Now I'm gonna break this one right here. Okay, and this one I can do in a couple ways. One thing I don't want is I don't want to grade the existing back here because it's going to get weird back in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to insert a PI right here. But I don't, before I put that PI in, I want to right click on the properties, and I want to check the elevation and put that at 0. So that when I come in here and I insert a PI in that line, okay, see if it's going to pick it. You notice it went weird. Okay, it did okay. What it'll do is it picked up, that slope will be the same right there. It picked up, it's not either. Okay, so it should have picked up that line, but because it was trying to pick here, it kind of got weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to straight grade from there to there. So it goes back to what it should have been. Okay. Alright. And now I'm going to create a feature line from right there. Most of the time when you insert a PI, by doing it the way I just did, it will pick up the elevation of whatever point that would have been on that line if it was interpolated to it. But when I started to pick it, it tried to pick something from over here, so it was grabbing an elevation from over there, so it got a little weird on me, which is because of that curve in there. And that's why I don't want to go back to that. I'm going to break that one, and I'm going to break that one, and I'm going to join that one, and that one, and that one. No, I'm not. Now, I'm going to feature line from here. If I tangent here, it'll be short of that. It'll probably be, okay, it worked out okay. It worked in the right point. I tangented right there. So I'm going to come right here and make sure it goes there. And I'm going to break that. And then now I can join these here. Whoops, didn't like something. Hit save because I don't want this to crash. I'm too far along. Okay, that one, that one. Okay, let's see if I can join that, and that, and that. Okay, and I didn't break that. I accidentally did join that a while ago. Now I can join that. Okay, so I've created me a solid line around here so I can grade to the surface. Okay, now this side I'm just going to grade to that, and this side I'm not going to grade to. I'm just going to leave it there because I told you why they would grade to that. Okay, all right, so how do we do that? How do we grade to a surface? Now we just go to grading creation tools, and group name. We're going to create a new one right here. We're going to call it tie to existing. We want to make a surface because we're going to paste this into our existing one. We don't want it to be anything or show anything because we don't need it to do anything. Hit OK. Hit OK again because it defaults. We don't care what label it's on or anything, layer it's on or nothing, because it's not going to matter. We're going to hit what surface do we want to grade to? The existing surface. We're going to do a 3:1 slope. So now we're going to click on that. Click on the line, select the grading side, apply to the entire length, yes. 3:1, 3:1, cut and fill. Voila. It'll draw us a little line around here. Okay. And all I care about is make sure this white line, when it came here, stayed inside my boundary, and it did. So that puts that one in. Now I'm going to click on this one again, and I'm going to do this side. I didn't do that. Okay, now I'm going to erase all this because I usually do this after I've created my surface. And I forgot to create my surface. I got ahead of myself. And if you notice, I'm hitting regenerate when I come around because these grading feature lines, these grading objects, have a triangle that dictates where their erase point is. And if the further out I am, the bigger it'll get. Okay, so we'll leave that up there. Now we're ready to create a surface. We already created our tie to existing. We got our existing surface. If you notice, it's a referenced in because the only thing we can do is synchronize it or promote it. Okay, so we're going to create a new surface. We don't care what layer in this drawing because we're just using this for reference. We're going to call this our proposed drawing. We're going to tell it we want triangles on because we want to see what it looks like. Now we're going to define it. Right click and add. Talked about weeding factors and supplemental factors before. This is how accurate your surface is. AutoCAD defaults at like 10 and 15 for these, which means your triangles are really big. Circles and arcs and tight numbers don't come in real as clean and and on a small surface it's nice to have them tight. So this is my settings. I find works extremely well for a small site. Alright, so select my objects. I'm going to pick everything there, and voila, I have a bad spot. How do I know I have a bad spot? I got a bunch of contours right here, so I forgot to assign something an elevation right there. I just don't know what. So let's do some quick annotating. Line. We add a quick annotating right here. That's it right there. 117,925. Okay, that should have been the easiest way to do that, because that's a long line. We could do elevations. We can click it right there, and it should be 6 inches lower than that. 3, 2, 1. Probably what happened was I was supposed to pick elevation, and I put a grade slope in there or something. That's the reason it was weird. Okay, but that's what I said. You'll know when you messed up, because that's why you keep all your lines at 0, because you'll know when you mess up. It'll show up somewhere. So now I can right click, and like I said earlier, I don't rebuild automatic because I don't want it rebuilding every time I make a move with something. I want to give it time. My surfaces are small enough and doing it, I can do that. So I'm going to hit rebuild, and hopefully that goes away. It does. So my surface looks good. The biggest thing is I have triangles out here where they don't go to anything, because the surface is it's trying to draw triangles from line to line wherever it's got them. So you can do these a couple of ways. You can create a boundary out here and define where your surface is, or you can delete triangles, which is what I usually do, because here's what happens. If you put a surface boundary on here, it never fails. You'll be almost through with your job, and you had somebody do something on that job, and they'll go in and they'll delete your daggum surface boundary. And now you got to either figure out where it was, and you probably don't remember, or something. So I try not to give anybody any way to mess that up. All right. So I used to delete triangles before I graded, but I found that if I wait and I grade it first, grading objects like we did a while ago, that it tends to reduce the number of triangles I have to delete. And because I got a lot of bump in and outs around here, I got a lot of extra triangles that I don't need. Okay. So let's go back to our grading. We already did our grading setup, so all we have to do is pick that we're ready to grade, pick our object in the side, let it finish. Okay, so on that side, I'm going to hit escape so that those grading objects are separate. If I had not hit escape, it would created it would have created those as one grading object. So when I erased one, I erased both of them. Okay? All right, we didn't really care about that one. You notice there was no contour lines or nothing in there. Okay? Now we need to take and put that tied existing surface into our surface. Okay? So what we do is hit edit, right click, paste surface. We want this to be the last thing we do so it fits in order correctly. That's another reason we do it that way. And because I pasted surfaces, I don't want to have to go keep turning that tie to existing on and off. That's why I usually turn it off, and it'll fall in here, because if it's screwed up, you'll see that if for some reason it tried to calculate across some areas it shouldn't, you'll know it because it'll mess up your existing surface. Okay, so I'm going to hit tie to existing, and now I'm going to hit regen, because I got my yellow. These yellow triangles mean that it's out of date. Okay, so I hit regen and fix it. Now then, see it cleaned them up. I got less triangles. They're not near as many. So now I'm going to do edit surface, delete line, and I'm just going to delete these lines out. Anything outside the white lines, because everything else is tied in to where it's supposed to be. Okay. All right. So go around the white line. Now I'm not going to delete these right here, because they're trying to calculate that in. I probably should have just made that finish right there and let it do, but it graded down and put a little slope right there, so I'm just going to leave those. Okay, and so I'm going to delete all the way down to there, come around, follow the lines around, and I'm deleting the triangles. Basically what I do with using the grading object is I basically created me a surface a boundary for my exterior, so when that changes, so will that, and I may have to rebuild my surface and do some stuff if it ever changes, but that grading object will fix itself. So I can do that. Now let's go back on this side. There's nothing here. We got to get rid of these. See how many there were in there? That's because there's no grading object. So and notice See, it doesn't do curves, it does triangles in between them, and that's why I set my settings at 1. I could probably set them tighter, but this works fine for me. I've never had any complaints from my contractors in the field when they worked on it. It seemed to work out right. All the drainage seems to work out right, and everything, so it seems to be plenty accurate without any complaints for that. So finish cleaning this out right here. This is right here, and trim these out. Trim this out and this out right here, and that one right there, and everything's trimmed out. So our surface is complete. We're down to 99, 98 on that side. We have 98 right there. We're going to wind up putting the pipe across here. We're probably going to pull this ditch back a little bit right here. I got to find that pipe. We turned it off. There's that 18-inch pipe. I'm probably going to just grab the end of that 18-inch pipe at 97.60. Yeah, I'm going to grab the end of that pipe right there and just add to it and extend to it and bring it over here into the bottom of this ditch. So we're finished with the surface. The next step will be bringing that into the proposed drawing and labeling it, and we'll create the next video for that. What we'll do here is, now what we said, if you remember, when we brought our existing surface in, we did what we called a data shortcut, which is real similar to an XREF drawing. We set our data shortcut folders up and all that in previous videos. So what we're going to do now is we're going to save the drawing. Okay. Now we're going to right click on data shortcuts, create data shortcut, and click on just our proposed surface. We don't need to tie to existing because it's tied to that one. We just need that one. All right. Now it's ready to go and ready to be imported in, and we'll do that on the next video.